Tacozilla here, the vanilla gorilla, with my trusty sidekick Theodore Bundy, our dog, which we named after our favorite president, Theodore Roosevelt. If you hear him barking in the background, that's him disagreeing with my points, but let's get right to the heart of the matter. I want to speak about the Spider-Verse, how it changed the game, but also how I think I'm a little bit below the consensus. This was a movie that jumped up to number one on Letterboxd 250 narrative films, and I am not anywhere close to that, I guess. But first, saw the original Into the Spider-Verse when it came out in theaters, and I saw this new film, Across the Spider-Verse, in theaters as well. And I think one of the biggest and best points that I can make about both these films, so the franchise as a whole, is that it is one of the last of the Mohicans when it comes to animated films that must be absorbed in theaters. You should really watch on a big screen these films because it has an animation style that it feels like a spectacle that has to be captured. It's one of those films that you are best suited to watch in theaters. And there's a lot of great examples of this that are live action, or maybe like a kind of combination, like live action with a lot of CGI. But animation, sometimes it felt like for a while it did not necessitate that, where you were kind of more than likely to just watch it once it went on Disney Plus or whatever streaming service. I only mentioned Disney Plus because they have such a large animated section. And maybe it was a story you were very invested in, so it was worth going to see it in theaters so you could watch it early. But the Spider-Verse series, as we're going to call it now, because those of you who have watched the second one, are aware that this is going to be a multi-film kind of story going on. It is something where the art style, how it is presented, feels as epic, which I know is a very cliche word that has a negative connotation when describing things, but it has an epic feel that you want to capture to the best of any abilities, and sometimes the TV screen is just not going to cut it. And hopefully I don't sound like a crotchety old man talking about that, you need to watch it on this certain screen. But a lot of directors, they speak about this incessantly, where there are elements, there are best ways to absorb certain films in their minds. And obviously they want you to go watch it in theaters because that helps their ability to make another film. And I do think this is such a good story that we should kind of fuel the fire monetarily for it, and I'm really happy to see that this is going to keep going, because I do think that this has been a consistently great series. But and the caveat here is I'm high on Across the Spider-Verse. I gave it a 4 out of 5, but that's certainly not as high as a lot of other people who watch the film. Like I was saying, it made it all the way to number one on the top 250 narrative films list. That I partially understand, and I'm not going to crap on anyone's opinion. Everyone has their opinion. For me, and now it's still within the top 10. And generally, after films like this leave theaters and a lot of people get more of a chance to see it, and it gets a kind of wider exposure, because fans of the first one are going to go see this one in theaters. So it's naturally going to be pretty high while it's in theaters, but more people are going to hear about this and be invested to watch both on streaming, who probably normally wouldn't have seen it just because it has so much popularity and so much gravitas to it already. But this will probably leave the top 25. And I think a lot of you watching this who might have rated this a 5 out of 5 would agree that this is not where it deserves to be ranked. And I couldn't help but make the comparison in my mind between this and Infinity War. And a lot of people that I know do not like Marvel, but have enjoyed this. And they're going to hate this comparison that I make, but maybe not. Infinity War, to me, was a great build-up, and it ended on a semi-related cliffhanger, we'll call it. And I'm purposely being vague, but I'm sure a lot of you listening to this know what I'm talking about. And I think I have Infinity War, and I'm going to check it right now just so that I know for certain, but I have it, I believe, a half star above this. And I kept thinking to myself, man, am I biased? Was there something, did I like this movie so much that I was sad to see it end? Is that why I'm only giving it a 4 out of 5? And the more and more I thought about it, it was, look, that ending was very impactful, but it was like, we got this great idea for 3. Come back and see us kind of put together everything we set up. Whereas Infinity War, and I know a lot of people are going to be way, way lower on this, I was invested in a lot of the series as a whole, and I enjoyed all the characters, and I felt like this was the culmination of what they had been building towards. So I was fully on board, and maybe that is the mirroring situation with what's going on across the Spider-Verse. And don't get me wrong, I loved the first film. I thought this is the future of animation, and it does look like that might be the case. But the ending of Infinity War was something like, I can't believe they had the balls for Marvel. I can't believe they had the balls to do this, and there must be a follow-up. People will riot if there's not a follow-up. And it obviously took the nation by storm. A lot of people really, really enjoyed it. This one was like, oh, that is neat. I didn't see that coming. It was very subtly built towards, and everything they did up until this point, it was a great story, but it wasn't punctuated the same way, because to me the most impactful moments of both films were the ending and kind of the reveal of what they did, and a lot of great stuff in between. And I want to speak on Across the Spider-Verse was really great thematically with what it did identity wise with Miles Morales, and exploring the character and also kind of getting meta on the character of Spider-Man. All tremendous, and that's why I think it is great. And maybe I'm discounting all of the work done on the front and middle end because of the ending, but that's why I want to hear from you guys. Am I right? Am I wrong? Are people slightly high on Across the Spider-Verse? Is it a worse movie than Avengers Infinity War? I want to know. I am standing by this for now, but if you make a good point, maybe I will see the light of day. But I just had to get this out there. I wanted everyone to kind of see and hear where I'm at, and I appreciate you stopping by to hear that message. Anyways, you've been great, and I will catch you on the flippity floop. Bye, y'all.